All right, let's talk about The Substance, which for my money, and we're going to be very coy about the story. I don't want to talk too much about the story, but this is The Substance is a I wouldn't say it's a French film, but it feels very French. It's directed by Coralie Fargy or Farge. It's about Elizabeth Sparkle. She is an older um,
Jane Fonda
actress who
type.
does an exercise show played by Demi Moore. She does a show that is she's like a Jane Fonda figure. She was an actress. She does this show. She's in very good shape for her age. She's 50 years old and does a little exercise show where she's very sexy on camera, but she gets fired by the
Dennis Quaid.
studio boss played by Dennis Quaid. He then gets in a car accident, and someone suggests, hey, maybe you might benefit from this thing called the substance. What is the substance? Well, this is all from the trailer, but it separates you into two people, a more perfect version of you that's younger and you, but only one of you can exist at the same time. Every 7 days, you must switch back to the older version of you, your original, and then your other self. The other self is played by, I believe the actress's name is
Margaret Qualley.
Margaret Qualley. You've seen in movies like Kinds of Kindness, among others. She plays a character called Sue. So Elizabeth Sparkle takes this compound, the substance, and splits herself into two beings. One younger and more perfect and more beautiful, and then her original self remains unconscious during Sue's existence. Sue then becomes very popular. She she immediately replaces Elizabeth Sparkle on a new show called Pump It Up, where she exercises in very sexy poses, um, and begins to get a little greedy when it comes to her existence in the younger perfect form, taking the very life substance from Elizabeth while she remains in her catatonic state. This movie is probably one of the best comedies of the year, the best horror movies of the year, and I'll say one of the best movies of the year, for which Demi Moore should get an Oscar nomination. I saw the movie last week. I saw it again last night, back to back, twice. Audiences, and we won't talk about the third act of the film. This is going to be non-spoiler for now. Um, the shock ending of the movie. You texted me, "Oh my god!" And you knew you had just finished seeing the movie. But for those that are turned off by the gore and the horror and the depths to this movie, the depths this movie goes, I'll just say there are more layers to this movie. I cannot stop thinking about it. It's about beauty standards. It's about how women are valued based on their looks. It's about the lengths people will go to keep their beauty and their value in Hollywood. The opening image of the movie, one of the opening images of the movie is of a Hollywood star of Elizabeth Sparkle. And what happens to that star? It begins to fade. A lot of the dialogue, which the dialogue is very sparse, it's very terse dialogue. There is not a moment that is wasted. The script is so tight, even though the running time, people will have problems with the running time. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. It flies by for me. It doesn't feel that long. But I'll say what makes this movie work for me is it's a body horror movie on the level of The Fly or Videodrome or other body horror that exists. And my God, it's like the kind of horror movies that work for me and resonate for me are ones that are that have ideas. And the ideas in this film, you'll be thinking about, like, it's aging actresses, Hollywood, and how they treat women. Although I'll say, while the men in the film are pretty much caricatures of types of men in Hollywood, I didn't feel the film didn't feel really anti-men at all. But my God, I love this film. This is on my top films of the year. The Substance, along with Strange Darling, along with Coffee Table, and it's a shocker. This movie won Best Screenplay at Cannes, but famously at Cannes, lots of people walked out of the film. And the third act is a middle finger to Hollywood, a literal middle finger to Hollywood. Shocking. And the fact that only a female director could really tell this story. There are moments, for example, and other things that are shocking, not just the gore, nudity. There is full frontal nudity from both Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley as Sue. I mean, and you'll see it. There's even a moment where when she wakes up in the new younger body, she's taking a shower, Sue, Margaret Qualley, and she's feeling her new ass because Elizabeth Sparkle's ass was a little flabby. Her ass is like now tight and, you could bounce a quarter off it. My God, I could praise this movie up and down. I cannot stop thinking about it. My some friends who saw it last night, they're like, it's good, but I didn't love it. Like, are texting me, I can't stop thinking about this movie. So I'm over the moon. I think, like I say, Demi should get an Oscar nom for this, but the Academy is not real favorable on horror. I think genre movies are not respected in Hollywood like they should be. When someone gives a great performance in a genre movie, it's not acknowledged. Demi Moore deserves it, at least a nomination for this film. Alan, what did you think of The Substance?
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. If you're gonna give Emma Stone an Oscar for Poor Things, why can't you nominate Demi Moore for this?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say this again, like you, I can't stop thinking about it. I'll say that the first 20 minutes of this movie, I could watch those first 20 minutes 100 times over. I mean, Demi Moore is so beautiful in this movie, and she still got it. And Margaret Qualley, I didn't know much about her. I can't wait for her to do another movie with Sydney Sweeney. Maybe bring back the comedy. Oh my gosh, she is so beautiful in this movie. This. I don't like body horror. I am not a fan of body horror, and there's a lot of body horror in this. And most of the back end of the movie is me just not watching the movie and just waiting for scenes to be done. But I will say those first 20 minutes made it worth it. What I like about this movie and what I wish more movies were like is that a movie that says something, that has a comment on today's culture. We talked about beauty, the standards of beauty. We've seen a lot of those films over the decades, but this one truly takes a unique approach to it. And so that's why I'm disgusted by what I'm seeing, but I understand what's going on and I'm liking it. Movie feels like a 2 hour and 20-minute episode of The Twilight Zone. It just takes an idea and expands upon it. What would you be beautiful for the rest of your life?
How far would you go to be beautiful?
Yeah.
But also, women, look, no surprise in Hollywood, Ozempic is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
This weight loss where people look unhealthy.
Yeah.
From their weight loss or surgery. So many people have commented. The one actress from The Boys got maybe a little too much plastic surgery.
Mm-hmm.
This is a thing. So this deals with, that's why I think that,
Yeah.
I think women also, by the way, I've spoken to many women who have seen this movie and they react very differently. I think this is more a horror film that women will relate to, but also women of certain stages of life will perceive this movie differently. But I was texting back and forth with Rob Burnett. I think this film is a masterpiece. I think it's a movie we'll be talking about for years to come. Already on my top 10.
Yeah.
I think it should be an awards contender, but it's going to affect people in strong ways. They are going to be turned off. Some people may walk out of the movie, especially in that third act, people will walk out of this film. You will watch and see. That's why I
Right.
went to see it a second time. I want to see how the people reacted.
Yeah,
Like everything from the soundtrack to, and by the way, this movie there's a Q&A on if you're a member of the Film Threat channel, see the Q&A with the director. This was all shot on a soundstage in France, most of it on a soundstage. It was storyboarded. Parts feel like a graphic novel. There's a fetishization of like the procedure of, they really spend time on how the procedure makes two of you, and they label the ingredients so you understand, the audience understands how it works. This is what I love in these types of movies. I don't like when you're making up rules. They show you the rules. Here's how the rules of the substance works. Here's the consequences of the substance. Literally, the body horror. Yeah, of not following. Literally, the horror in the movie is parts of Demi Moore become old. She's old and aging. That's the body horror, which everyone can relate to, because eventually we're all going to get old. We're all going to have flabby thighs and knees that get, if we, age to a certain, age. And it gets into the body horror of watching your body change and become old. Like, that's the level of body horror. And that's why I think it's so affecting, because it puts us in touch with our own mortality.
Yeah, I second all that. But to me, the greatest thing about this movie is, again, and I say this a lot about movies, especially just the critic, that makes you think beyond just the narrative that's going on in front of you. And that's why I call it a 2-hour Twilight Zone episode, because every episode of the Twilight Zone took some aspect, whether it's age, you could go down the line of each episode and why you like that episode of Twilight Zone. This is one of those, and it takes it further and goes into body horror, but not body horror, not for the sake of body horror, but it means something to the overall theme of this movie.
It's more than that.
Hold on, let me, Agatha. They're going to these escape rooms where they learn something about themselves. This movie does it so much better. It says something more deeper than just these themes of sisterhood and getting along. The movie Men, I kept thinking about the movie Men when I saw this movie, and the things that happen in this movie have reason to it. And I gotta say, the very ending in this circle, and it's just the bow on the package.
Well, I'll just say this.
And the coffee table. The reason I didn't like the coffee table is because not only the event in the beginning, but I had to watch it because I felt like there was going to be some payoff at the end. And this movie has the payoff that I wish the coffee table had.
It definitely has the payoff, but I'll say this. I've always liked genre that has layers. Horror films that have, being chased by the monster. I like those movies, but there's not much to those, right? Body horror is one of my favorites when it's done well. And literally, the monster in this movie is the person you're looking at in the mirror. It is you. You are the monster. So she becomes a monster in effect. Her own undoing, because they keep repeating, you are one. The dialogue is so sparse in this, and it's really, I don't know. It's the kind of smart horror movie I love, but I understand some people just give me a monster, whatever. There's more to this film. There's far more to this movie, and I loved it. One of my favorite movies of the year. We're going to talk about it on Monday on Versus with a whole panel of people, not our usual panel.
Here's the thing. I wish Jack Schaefer had watched this movie before she wrote Agatha all along. Because then she would have something to say in her show, and have some meaning in her show. But obviously she didn't. And this is the path that Disney Star Wars and Marvel have been taking for way too long.
Well, my hope is this movie gets the awards recognition it deserves. I mean, it's got a female director. It's also, and it's this is only her second movie. She made a movie called Revenge that's on Shudder. I tried to buy it. You can't buy it. It's on Shudder. I'm gonna watch that movie. Only her second film. She spent years on this. Years. And by the way, Universal Pictures funded this movie and then decided not to do it. They they didn't release it, and it came out from Mubi, so it's in theaters now. You really need to see it. It's also like I just love ideas, and I love genre works when you have rules. I like they lay out the rules simply to the audience
on big index cards.
Here are the rules. We're explaining the rules. Here's how the movie works. We might break some of these rules, and then what the cost is, and about the choices the characters make.
I think if this movie does, I think if the movie does well in the theaters and gains traction, like people are talking about it, it will get Oscar. It'll get awards.
Well, and also, I'll say for its Oscars chances, it's going to be because of Hollywood likes films about itself. You know, like Babylon, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Hollywood loves movies about the industry. This is about a part of the industry. What do women have to do to remain relevant and bankable in Hollywood? You know, how far would an actress go to continue to receive love of strangers? They focus on certain words like love. There's even like close-ups of the word love. Since I've seen the movie 3 times, I noticed so much more about it. It is really hammering the message. A lot of it like really in your face, but it is so relevant and so important. And I hope it gets the recognition it deserves. 9.5 out of 10 for me. One of my favorite movies of the year, up there with Strange Darling, Coffee Table. You know my taste, not the same as Alan. And I kind of made him go to see this. So that's where it is for me. Alan, what about you?
I give it 8.5. I don't see it as the masterpiece as you do, but it's a definite recommendation. And no, I will not be taking my daughter to see this movie.
All right. Well, there we go. Yes, this is not a movie for your daughter, but please see it. We'll talk about it in more detail after you've all seen it. Let's go to comments here.